I didn't think a 4-minute trip into a fitting room could blow up someone's entire life, but yeah, that happened. And the wild part is it didn't even happen to the person who deserved it. It happened to the woman who thought she was better than everybody else. And I should know, because I was the one she thought she needed protection from. It was a Tuesday, middle of the day, nothing dramatic, just me finally off shift after a brutal stretch at the hospital. And if you've ever worked 12-hour rotations, you know that feeling when your body is tired but your mind still wants a little piece of normal life. So I stopped at this regular department store to buy a dress for my niece's graduation. Nothing fancy, just something nice enough to say I showed up for her. The place smelled like fabric softener and floor cleaner, soft pop music playing overhead, fluorescent lights buzzing like lazy bees, and honestly, it felt peaceful. The kind of boring calm you don't appreciate until later, when you realize it was the last quiet moment before everything cracked open. I picked 3 dresses, smiled at the young employee, folding jeans nearby, stepped into fitting room number 3, tried them on. Quick chose a blue sundress, hung the others neatly, and walked out feeling pretty good about life. Simple errand. Done, you know what I mean? Just another anonymous shopper passing through the world without making waves. But the second I stepped out, I felt it, that stare, that heavy stare, that doesn't just look at you but studies you like you're something under a microscope. And I turned my head slightly and saw her standing there, late 50s. Maybe blonde bob haircut, sharp enough to slice paper, beige cardigan, leather handbag, clutch tight, posture stiff, like she owned the hallway. And she wasn't browsing, she wasn't distracted. She was watching me. I gave a polite smile because that's what you do. You keep it moving. You don't assume trouble. You don't invite conflict, especially when you've spent your whole life learning how to walk through spaces without making people nervous. So I thanked the employee and headed toward checkout, and that should have been the end of my part in the story. But about 10 seconds after I left, she snapped her fingers at that employee. Not waved, not excused herself. Snapped. "Something's wrong with that room," she said, pointing at the stall I'd just used. The girl looked confused, like she expected maybe a broken hook or missing mirror. "Ma'am?" The woman tilted her chin. "It's dirty now." The employee glanced toward the curtain. "We clean them regularly. It should be fine." And then came the line, the one that changed everything. She leaned in and lowered her voice like she was sharing a secret. "One of them just used it. You need to disinfect it." One of them. Not a customer, not a woman, not a person. One of them. The girl froze, and I wasn't there to see it. But I've replayed that moment in my mind 1,000 times because I know that feeling when your brain hears something ugly and your heart's trying to decide whether you misheard it. She tried to stay professional. "Ma'am, it's already clean." The woman crossed her arms. "Fine for them, maybe. Not for me. I'm not stepping in there unless you spray it down." See, people like that don't just want compliance, they want confirmation. They want you to agree with the lie they're telling themselves about the world. The employee didn't move, just stood there holding the spray bottle at her side. The woman's eyes narrowed. "Well, then you shouldn't have a problem cleaning it." Translation: do what I say. By then, people were watching. A mom pushing a stroller slowed down. 2 teenagers pretended to check their phones, but their cameras were pointed up. The hallway went quiet in that heavy way silence gets when everybody senses something ugly is about to happen. The girl took a breath and said softly, "It really is ready to use." That's when the woman realized she wasn't being obeyed. Her face tightened, color rising up her neck. She stepped closer, invading the girl's space. "I said spray it." 3 seconds passed. "That's all." Then a calm voice behind them said, "Is there a problem here, store manager?" Middle-aged guy, tired eyes, voice steady like someone who's dealt with every flavor of customer meltdown known to retail. The woman spun toward him instantly like she'd been waiting for backup. "Yes, your employee is refusing to clean that fitting room after someone used it." He looked at her, then at the employee, then back at her and said quietly, "I heard what you said, and I need you to leave." She blinked. "Excuse me. You need to leave the store. We don't tolerate discrimination here." You could almost hear the gears in her head grinding. "I will never shop here again." He shrugged slightly. "That's fine." Nobody spoke. Nobody defended her. Just phones recording and eyes watching. She huffed, turned sharply, and marched out, heels squeaking against the floor like punctuation marks. Now, if the story ended there, she probably would have gone home, convinced she'd been mistreated, maybe complained to friends, maybe laughed it off, but someone uploaded that video before she even left the parking lot. By evening, it had millions of views. By the next morning, the internet knew exactly who she was. Turns out she wasn't just some random shopper. She was a regional housing administrator, someone who literally decided which families got approved for apartments and which ones didn't. And once people started digging, the pattern came out fast. Former tenants spoke up. A Hispanic family said she fined them over decorations other tenants had with no problem. A black father said she refused to renew his lease because his family barbecues were disruptive, even though nobody ever complained. Former coworkers leaked emails where she called certain applicants undesirable and told staff to find reasons to deny them. Not a bad day. A system. See, moments like that fitting room scene don't appear out of thin air. They leak from habits, from beliefs someone's been practicing quietly for years until one day they say it out loud in the wrong place at the wrong time. Her company fired her within 48 hours and released one of those corporate statements that sounds polite but really means we're cutting you loose before this burns us, too. But the real twist, the part nobody expected, happened when I saw the video myself. I was sitting at my kitchen table with tea still in my scrubs, scrolling absent-mindedly, and suddenly there I was, walking out of that fitting room like a ghost passing through someone else's nightmare. My first reaction wasn't embarrassment. It was this slow, steady anger rising from my stomach to my chest, not loud, not explosive, just heavy, like something inside me saying, no, we're not letting that stand. So I called a lawyer, not because I wanted revenge, because I wanted acknowledgement. There's a difference. We filed a civil case, emotional distress, defamation, and once those emails surfaced, tenants filed a class action against her company for discrimination. Evidence stacked up fast. Video witnesses, documents, patterns. Her lawyers tried to say it was free speech misunderstanding taken out of context. Judge didn't buy it. Settlement hit hard. Millions paid out by the company. She personally had to pay damages too, enough to drain a big chunk of what she'd saved for retirement. But money wasn't the real consequence. Her neighbors recognized her. HOA forced her off the board. Her husband moved out a few months later and filed for divorce, said he couldn't live in that kind of environment anymore. Last I heard, she works remote transcription. Now no public contact, just a screen and a keyboard. Meanwhile, life went on for me. I wore that blue dress to the graduation, sat in the sun, clapped until my hands hurt. And with part of the settlement, I started a scholarship for minority nursing students, named it the Clean Hands Initiative. Yeah, I've got a sense of humor, because sometimes the best way to answer hate is to build something that outlives it. The funny thing is, the moment I keep thinking about isn't the lawsuit or the headlines or even her getting fired. It's that employee standing there holding that spray bottle, knowing she might get in trouble, knowing she might get yelled at, and still choosing not to play along. She didn't shout, didn't argue, just didn't move. Dignity doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like a tired 20-year-old quietly refusing to cooperate with nonsense. That camera in the store is probably still there right now, watching people try on clothes, recording ordinary life. And most days, nothing happens. But every once in a while, it catches the truth somebody thought they could hide. So here's what I want to ask you honestly. If you'd been standing there that day, hearing those words, seeing that moment unfold, would you have stepped in or stayed quiet and told yourself it wasn't your business? Because everybody likes to think they'd be brave until it's their turn. Tell me what you think. Was justice served, or did things go too far? And have you ever witnessed something like this yourself? I want to hear your story in the comments.